Welcome to Politics News Wolf US channel. Over the past few weeks, airstrikes have become important in determining the outcome of the Ukraine war. The only shortcoming of the Ukrainian army against the Russian army was the lack of a good aircraft fleet. But the Ukrainian Air Force easily closed this gap with the MiG-29 sent by Poland and Slovakia. Last week, the president of Russia, Vladimir Putin, had a lot of confidence in the air force of his army in particular. But President Putin's confidence seems to have been greatly shaken, both by the modern air defense systems that Ukraine borrowed from its Western partners, and the joining of MiG-29s to the Ukrainian Air Force. Since the MiG-29s entered the Ukrainian Army inventory, the Ukrainian Army's air operations have increased by 40%. Assuming that the MiG-29s arrived just a few weeks ago, this increase was among the successes of the Ukrainian Army throughout the war. Today we will talk about a few of the results of this operation increase. Let's examine the latest operations of the Ukrainian Air Force and the developments about the general situation of the war together. In the past day, the Ukrainian Air Force carried out 11 attacks on Russian personnel and military equipment clusters, and 3 on anti-aircraft missile systems. As a result of these attacks, according to the first determinations, 150 Russian soldiers were killed, and 100 Russian soldiers were injured. It was reported that the injured soldiers were transferred to hospitals under Russian control in the Donetsk region. In addition, a MiG-29 from the Ukrainian Air Force shot down a Russian Su-25 MiG-29, which made a patrol flight north of Kiev. First entered a dogfight for 5 minutes with the approaching Russian aircraft. Afterwards, the Su-25 locked onto the Ukrainian plane. The Ukrainian pilot who went behind the Su-25 with a quick maneuver, shot the U-25 from its left wing and shot it down with this latest air operation. The Ukrainian army destroyed 320 Russian planes with 315 Russian helicopters throughout the war, losing a great deal of power to the Russian Air Force. Successful operations of the Ukrainian army continue not only in the air, but also in the ground. Ukrainian missile island artillery units struck 3 clusters of Russian manpower, weapons, and military equipment, an artillery concentration area, a radar station, 2 electronic warfare stations, an anti-aircraft missile system, and an ammunition depot. As a result of these attacks, nearly 350 Russian soldiers were killed according to initial estimates. Over the past day, the Russian army has carried out 28 airstrikes, 6 missile attacks, and 38 MMLRS attacks on Ukrainian troop positions and civilian infrastructure of settlements. But the majority of these attacks were repelled by Ukrainian defense troops. A small number of Russian missiles hit damaged civilian settlements, and casualties were reported among civilians. So what about the rest of the front line? The Russian army continues to suffer significant and massive losses, but does not give up on its plans to advance on Ukrainian soil. The Russians continued to focus offensive operations in the Lyman, Bachman, Avdiivka and Marinka directions. Bakhmut and Mika remain the epicenter of military operations. The other day, Ukrainian troops repelled more than 60 Russian attacks on the specified sections of the front in the Volga, Si and Sal directions. No signs of the formation of Russian assault groups were detected the other day. The Russian army bombed 7 settlements in the Sumy region, and 5 settlements in the Khaki region in the direction of Koans. The Russian army mined the land in 4 settlements and bombed 3 settlements in the Kharkiv region in the direction of Lyman. The Russian army conducted unsuccessful offensive operations near the settlements of Deva and Bika. 3 settlements in the Luhan region and Tak in the Donets region were hit by artillery fire. The Russian army continues to attack in the direction of Bachman. The wars for the city of Bachman do not stop. The Russian army launched an offensive near the settlement of Kromovy, but was unsuccessful except for Bachman. 12 settlements in the Donetsk region came under the fire of the Russian army in the direction of Lyman-Bachman. The Russian army carried out offensive operations in the Lyman-Bachman and Sivy near regions of the Donetsk region, but cannot pass the steel curtain of the Ukrainian defense units. The Russian army struck more than 15 settlements close to the line of contact, including Kek, Step-Barki, aka Permez and Kaka in the Donetsk region. In the direction of Mika, Ukrainian defense troops repelled numerous Russian attacks in the Mika region of the Donetsk region at the same time. Hiroshivka, in the Donetsk region came under Russian fire. In the directions of Shakhtarsk, the Russian army did not conduct offensive operations yesterday. 5 settlements in the Donetsk region, including Vlada, were under Russian bombardment. The Russian army continues to hold its defense in the Zaporizhzhia and Kherson directions. Russian troops carried out missile and artillery attacks on 2 settlements in the Donets region. 8 settlements in the Zaporizhzhia region and the city of Kherson in the Kherson region. Although most of these attacks on residential areas were repelled, casualties were reported among civilians according to the Russian Defense Ministry. As Kiev reiterated its goal of crushing Russian forces in the devastated city of Donetsk, Wagner Group mercenaries took control of a new district of Bechman. The Russian Defense Ministry said in a statement that VNA assault groups liberated lands in the northwest and southeast parts of the embattled eastern enclave. However, the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine said that Mat was the epicenter of the war and that Ukraine repulsed the attacks. So how much did the statements of the Russian Defense Ministry reflect the truth? Bakhmut witnessed months of fierce fighting between Russian and Ukrainian troops, with Wagner Group mercenaries playing an important role. U.S. Joint Chiefs of Staff General Mark Milley had previously described Bachman as a carnage fest for Russian forces. Russian-backed officials in the Donetsk region said Ukrainian fighters in BMO were nearly extinct. Well, Ukraine said about 4,500 Russian soldiers had been killed or wounded around BMO in the previous year. The same day, Russian officials reported that Yevpergo, head of the Wagner mercenary unit, said that 32,000 Ukrainian fighters had been eliminated by his forces in Bakhmut and the nearby settlement of Solidar since the conflict began. Russia's defense ministry also said that its fighters engaged in heavy fighting in the city, but Wagner's assault troops advanced successfully. Ukraine's Eastern Command, on the other hand, said that unprecedented battles were waged in the urban area of Bakhmut, stating that the Ukrainian soldiers did everything in bloody and fierce battles to destroy Russia's combat capability and demoralize it. The Eastern Command also underlined that the Ukrainian army was quite successful in this regard. In early April, Russia's defense ministry said elite airborne troops or VDV fighters had joined Russian forces already deployed in Bakhmut. According to Russia's defense ministry, Russian airborne units isolating Ukrainian troops on the flanks and supporting the attack troops' action to take the control of the city. This may indicate that Russia's military leadership views the frontline embankment as wider than in the nearby Bakhmut area. Claims from a Russian Mill blogger suggested that these airborne units were not directly focused on helping Wagner forces besiege and capture Ment, but could be around the city to prevent possible Ukrainian counterattacks. Russia's defense ministry also said that Ukrainian troops had withdrawn from Bakhmut and deliberately destroyed the city's infrastructure and residential buildings to slow the advance of Russian troops. So what does Ukraine say about these allegations? The Ukrainian Defense Ministry said the statements of the Russian Defense Ministry and the Afghani Perga were not true. Did the Ukrainian defense troops repelled every single Russian attack and inflicted huge losses on the Russian troops? The Ukraine has previously accused Moscow of scorching tactics, including sabotaging the remaining infrastructure in Bakhmut that could be of use to the Ukrainian forces. As you can see, there are many claims that cannot be verified by Russia. However, based on published satellite images and reports of independent observers in the region, it's possible to say that the Russian troops made a partial advance in Bakhmut, but the offensive operations were repelled by the Ukrainian defense units. In addition, it is a fact that should not be forgotten, that the elite units of the Ukrainian army, such as the Azov and White Wolf units, are in the region, and the attacks of these units cause huge losses to the Russian troops. So what do you think about this subject? Please express your thoughts in the comments. Thank you for watching the video. If you find it useful, please comment and share the video for us. It will make our channel more known. See you in the following videos. Thank you very much.